Carlisle HVAC products. Reducing HVAC system noise without sacrificing energy efficiency. During this presentation, we will take a look at flexible duct connectors. What is flexible duct connector? Why and where is flexible duct connector used? Why different fabrics? What about our seams? Why different size configurations and gauges? Why different box configurations? And finally, we'll review some installation pictures. So let's get started. What is flexible duct connector? Flexible duct connector is an airtight flexible joint consisting of a fabric which is secured to sheet metal on both sides. Let's take a look. Why and where is flexible duct connector used? In order to isolate the vibration and noises through a source, duct connector must be inserted between the equipment and the ductwork. Without the use of flexible duct connector, vibrations, noises, and rattles are transmitted into the ducts, which array the noises throughout the system. Why different fabrics? We manufacture a variety of different fabrics, including neoprene, vinyl, Hypalon, and silicone. The determining factors on which one to use will be the application, whether we're using the product indoor or outdoor, the operating temperature range, and the chemical resistance that we're looking for. Neoprene connector is the choice of specifying engineers. It's the industry standard, retaining its flexibility and aging characteristics over a long period of time. Neoprene offers high resistance to a broad range of chemicals, acids, and alkalis. The application for neoprene connector can be commercial, industrial, or residential. The product can be used indoors or outdoors because neoprene does have good weathering properties. Chemical resistance is also very good, and the temperature range is from -35 to 235 degrees F. Vinyl connector is used on HVAC applications where an economical flexible connection is required. Vinyl flex is a replacement for canvas, which is no longer considered acceptable. The typical application for vinyl connector is residential. The product is an indoor only as it lacks the UV stability required for outdoor applications. Chemical resistance remains very good and temperature range is from -35 to 200 degrees F. Hypalon connector is the preferred material for outdoor applications, such as connections to rooftop units where they may be in strong direct sunlight. It's unaffected by ozone and can be used near electrostatic and UV air cleaners with complete confidence. The applications for Hypalon connector are commercial, industrial, and residential when UV filtration is used. The product is an indoor-outdoor. Hypalon has excellent weathering and withstands UV very well. The chemical resistance is also very good. The temperature range on Hypalon is from -50 to 260 F. This slide shows a variety of different UV filtration devices used in either residential, commercial, or industrial applications. Typically, these systems are installed in proximity to the flexible duct connector. Therefore, the light emitting from them has the potential to affect the quality of the connector over the long term. This is why a Hypalon connector should be used, as it's completely unaffected by UV light. Silicone connector has a very wide temperature range. This material will not burn and emits minimal fumes when exposed to open flame. It's the product of choice for high temperature applications. The applications include commercial, residential, and industrial applications. The product can be used indoors and outdoors as silicone has good weathering properties. Chemical resistance is excellent and the temperature range is between -67 to 500 degrees F. This chart shows the different operating temperature ranges of our fabrics. As you can see, the silicone has by far the widest range and is the product of choice for high temperature applications. This chart shows the chemical resistance of the various fabrics used in our duct connectors. A letter A would mean that the product has little or no effect on the fabric. B would be a moderate effect, and C would be a severe effect. Different fabrics react differently to different chemicals. For your convenience, this chemical resistance chart is also available on our website. What about our seams? The Dynair connector products are available with two types of seams. Both of these seams protect the product when the product is folded on a brake. The seams also add rigidity to the connector product once installed. The left image shows the double fold offset seam. On the right are FabGuard seam. Let's look at these in more detail in the next slides. The connector is typically folded into its final shape using a brake, such as shown by the picture below. A pinch roller can also be used for circular connections. Our seam protects the fabric from being crushed at the point where the brake puts pressure on the material. This slide shows a blown-up image of our double fold offset seam. The gray bar at the top and bottom represent the clamp of the brake, which comes down onto the flexible duct connector as it's being folded. Notice how the offset on each side of the seam keep the fabric from being crushed. This slide shows a blown-up image of our FabGuard seam. Again, the gray bars at top and bottom represent the clamping of the brake onto the flexible duct connector. With the FabGuard seam, the fabric is completely protected between the metal of the seam. This slide shows a blown-up image of a regular competitive seam. Without the offset on each side, as the clamp comes down, you can see that fabric damage can occur as the fabric gets crushed within the clamp.
Hey, Francois Boudreau here with Carlisle HVAC. Today we're going to take a look at splicing duct connector. Now your first step is to measure 1.5 inches from the edge of that connector. Now that's equal to approximately 5 tooth marks on that seam. You then want to cut a notch and then cut right along the edge of that offset seam. Once you've taken out the notches on each side, what you're left with is a piece of connector that can then mate up to the other section. You then want to spot weld those sections together. Now if you're doing this in the field, you're basically just going to be screwing those two sections together. The next step is going to be to glue that flap of fabric. We're going to be using a splicing adhesive specifically designed for Hypalon and Neoprene connector. Notice how we're applying the adhesives to both sections of fabric. Once that's done, we're going to use a metal roller and apply some pressure to ensure we get a nice solid bond. Here we're using some 1402 rolled sealant in order to seal up the metal section of that seam. So there you have it, a completely leak-free splicing seam for your connector. Now make sure to visit us at www.carlislehvac.com for more videos or more information.
Why different size configurations and gauges? Well, it can be a question of application, personal preference or habit, or could be called for in the specs. Let's take a look. This is our CP Commercial Industrial Quality Connector. This is a 333 24 gauge configuration, which means 3 inches of metal, followed by 3 inches of fabric, and another 3 inches of metal on the other side. The 24 gauge represents the thickness of the metal used in the flexible duct connector. This 333 24 gauge is the industry standard for commercial and industrial applications. SCP is our Super Commercial Industrial Quality Connector. This configuration is a 363 24 gauge, again used in commercial and industrial applications. The 6 inches of fabric offer more flexibility during installation. It also accommodates for more movement of the joint. This is our LCP, Light Commercial Quality Connector. This is a 333 configuration, but using 28 gauge metal, which is lighter than 24. This product is used in light commercial and residential applications. Some customers will prefer the thinner gauge metal as it tends to be easier to work with, especially when installing in the field. RCP is our residential quality connector. It is a 232 configuration with 28 gauge steel. This is a residential product. The thinner gauge is easier to bend and cut. Less metal equals more cost savings for residential applications. Our CPDL and CPFL connectors are designed for use in TDC and TDF machines. Available in a 434 24 gauge or a 444 24 gauge. These products are designed for commercial and industrial applications. The wider metal is designed to accommodate running the connector product through a TDC or TDF machine. Using 434 or 444 is really a question of personal preference. The 444 with the extra inch of fabric will accommodate a bit more movement. Our CPDL and CPFL connectors are designed to be run through a machine similar to the one on the left. The 4 inches of metal on these connectors enable us to run it through the machine, which produces a flange directly onto the duct connector. Our FGR FabGuard series connector is available in a 343 28 gauge and a 242 28 gauge configuration. These products are designed for residential and light commercial applications. The use of the FabGuard seam is mostly a question of personal preference. CUF is our Circuflex connector. It's a 24 gauge spine reinforced duct connector. This is a patented product designed for commercial and industrial applications, typically for use on high pressure fan outlets and inlets. Also, this product is typically specified by the consultant. The configuration is a 454 with a reinforced spine that you can see in the middle of the fabric section. Our Circuflex product does a great job to avoid fabric collapse or ballooning on high pressure inlets and outlets of axial flow fans and blowers. Notice the diagrams below. Without the Circuflex product, there can be a collapse of the fabric, which increases static pressure within the ductwork. Our SL200 Spring Link is ideal for high pressure connector applications. Spring Link consists of a spring and a 2-bracket assembly. The assembly is mounted onto the flexible duct connector collars at high pressure blower inlets and outlets. Why different packaging configurations? We offer our flexible duct connector in 3 packaging configurations: closed, open, and flat. The closed reduces box size, therefore takes up less storage space and reduces shipping cost. On the other hand, the open and flat are easier to cut through for the contractor. Let's take a look at a few application pictures. Below is a typical indoor application. Notice how the connector accommodates different size gaps between the ductwork and the equipment. Here we have another indoor application. Notice how the connector is installed as close to the equipment as possible. This will ensure that any noises created by the vibrations of the equipment will be reduced to the equipment itself and will not resonate throughout the ductwork. Here we have a picture of a typical outdoor application. The connector that should have been used on this application would have been Hypalon to ensure a long-lasting connection when exposed to direct sunlight. Here we have a picture of an application which would have been great for Circuflex connector. Connected directly to a high-pressure blower, such as in the picture below, the Circuflex would avoid the collapse of the fabric, ensuring high performance of the system. This concludes our duct connector presentation. Thank you very much for your time. Don't forget to visit us at www.carlislehvac.com.